Hello, fabulous fans and superstars of my dear friend Nadiya Shah. I am Yuriria Robles and I welcome you to the predictions for each sign for the month of July 2025. Congratulations to Cancer and Leo, whose birthdays will be this month. Let's begin with a general introduction to the most important astrological conditions. We are in the period where the luminaries, that is, the moon and the sun, rule the energy of the astrological field. The moon is the lord of summer as the season begins on June the 20th, when the sun enters the sign of Cancer, bringing with it a time of heightened emotionality, volatile moods, and a desire for protection, family, and food. This disposition will increase because Jupiter is in this sign with very positive energy, remaining here for a year until the summer of 2026. As for the Sun, it assumes its rulership with its entry into Leo, and this is where expressiveness, self determination, and the desire to shine grow exponentially. This year, the desire to be unique expands thanks to the company of Mercury, which will retrograde in Leo. We'll go into more detail later. For now, suffices to say that starting on July the 22nd, the sun and the need of brilliance are widespread, and we should carefully review what, how, and when we want to be the suns of our existence. The full moon completes on July the 10th at 18 degrees Capricorn. It's certainly not a comfortable sign for lunar energy, as it becomes demanding, dry, and incapable of nurturing, as the sun in Cancer is demanding. But it does have a balancing effect of common sense and maturity, more than necessary in these times of excessive emotionality. We had anticipated that it would be a difficult time due to the multiple movements among the outer planets, which seem to advance and then, after a short time, retreat, failing to stabilize the system. This causes everyone, regardless of their power, to propose advances and setbacks, the endless twists and turns characteristic of the sign of Cancer. Therefore, the energy of caution and moderation is in order. The new moon culminates on July the 24th, accompanied by Mercury and in supreme harmony with Saturn and Neptune, with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius. This is an excellent time to sow what you want to create, as well as to manifest your own worth and truth in actions and proposals. Let us remember that is the energy of fire, where what is required, above all, is inspiration and action. Only then will it have an outlet. But the highest expression is generosity. So let us remember that although we want to receive applause for who we are and what we do, the important thing is to give generously. Only then will the effort be rewarded. Whatever we come up with must be big, and for others, they may or may not appreciate it at the time, but we must be certain that we did our best. Regarding communication, we must follow the movements of Mercury, which especially affect Geminis and Virgos, but it also affects everyone else in the communication processes. This month, on July the 1st, Mercury enters Leo, demanding balances as it opposes Pluto in Aquarius, forcing us to consider the community which has the strength of a group and imposes its own ideas, even if our thinking is creative, lucid, truthful, and generous. The essential thing now is a balance between what we want to say and what the community wants to hear. No matter how much effort is made towards personal brilliance, it must be fair and yield the microphone or the stage to others. The group is not very willing to accept selfish individualism, much less extreme individualism. Mercury begins its effect from the planet's station right in the middle of the sign on July 17th. 2 days later, the apparent backward movement begins where it will remain until August the 12th. We then have the entire month to review our self expression processes. Let's take advantage of the lull to reorganize if we need to improve our method, rehearse, and rethink our goals. Especially around July the 31st, with inferior conjunction, we can ask ourselves what we do best and how we can share it as generously as possible, just as the sun does. Love relationships are also about to conclude 7 years process that underwent a radical, innovative, and libertarian change. Due to Uranus' passage through the sign of Taurus, interpersonal relationships open up to a multiplicity of forms, genders, and options. July the 1st marks the meeting of Venus with the planet of originality and eccentricity. The 4th is exact. In July, we expect a review of this process of rebuilding relationships and moving towards its conclusion. With Uranus entering Gemini on July the 8th, our attention will shift towards efforts at innovation and renewal in the way we think, communicate, and move. This will happen at least until November the 8th, when the closing period of this time begins, where tastes, loves, and relationships have transformed from the usual to the eccentric. Returning to July the 5th, Venus enters Gemini, ruled by Mercury, which is, as we mentioned, will be in Leo, and the desire to show off, to adorn oneself, and to be seen will increase. During these days, it will establish a harmonious dialogue with Pluto in Aquarius, now seeking to renew the beauty of ideas, enjoy communicating and learning. This search for new and beautiful ideas will be strengthened throughout the month. Now, in the solar system, couples are represented by Venus and Mars, who, starting on July the 16th, will enter into a difficult and demanding dialogue, since Venus in Gemini loves superficial light and easy conversations. Mars, already in the sign of Virgo, will want to be busy serving, clarifying, and offering critical and harsh opinions, so we won't have enough patience for details. This makes the transit of Mars throughout the month a greater challenge because, in dealing with the spirit of new beginnings, it will face the confusion and disappointment of Neptune, as well as the demands of Saturn. It's best to focus on cleaning up literally everything within reach and avoid getting bogged down in circular arguments that lead only to arguments and resentment in relationships. On top of that, all this will be amplified by the presence of the nodes. Mars on the south node makes any effort lacking in interest and energy. Ideally, we insist we should get rid of things that make life difficult, mainly toxicity and drama. As we already mentioned, Jupiter has just entered Cancer and is still engaged in a harsh and extremely difficult dialogue with Saturn and Neptune for the first 10 days of the month. In everyday terms, we are in a period of crisis regarding what was proposed in 2020 and which we needed or wanted to be renewed, not only globally, but also on a personal level. The goals we set are being questioned because we are unclear about how we should proceed to achieve them. In all directions, there are contradictory communications and information. Strictly speaking, there are no clear boundaries or processes. Everything is truly a fog whose lights return inward with greater confusion. The method we suggest, then, for navigating this period is to stay centered. We cannot overflow into the bad or the good. Rather, it is to truly examine what is essential and gives us security, as well as growth, by removing the superfluous and making time for faith and spiritual expression. As for the major planets, they have already formed, in the strictest sense, the harmony we have been discussing for months, which will be maintained for several years to come. It is like a note of agreement between group power and the technology of communication and relationship. It has a coherent side, which is social harmony in general, but in all honesty, it also involves an inconsistent side, which is permission to explore any technology that sustains homogeneity, even the idealization of conquest and war. Let's review the signs. I just suggest you listen to your ascendant sign as well as your natal moon sign and your sun sign. These three perspectives will help to better understand what is happening to us. Although it is best to consult a professional astrologer so he or she can synthesize who you are and, of course, what awaits you. Cancer. Congratulations to the Cancers who will have their birthdays this month. We already know that birthdays are a time to recover energy and vitality. For you, especially in 2025, because the great benefic of the solar system is now in your sign and will remain there for a year. This will fill you with growth, well being, and security. However, it won't be easy to go on a diet, and you'll have to be careful with the amount of food you ingest. In coherence, this meeting of the Sun and Jupiter on your birthday can bring you a growth whose benefits you'll build on for 12 years. Of course, there's a condition. You must overcome the difficult dialogue with Saturn and Neptune, who asks you to move without giving you any guarantee about how far or how long. For you as a Cancer who needs security, this represents an enormous challenge, but I must tell you that there's no way to avoid it. It's time to move towards the security you long for later. Don't stay in your comfort zone. There's no way around it. 5 years ago, you set a goal, and now, because of that dialogue, you are questioning whether it's useful or beneficial. Take time to remember it, the actions you assume were necessary, and why you wanted to achieve it. This is a time of crisis regarding that particular goal. Unfortunately, there's no clarity right now, only faith that you'll achieve it, protected by the universe and within yourself. The attitude is one of a warrior of the spirit and with inner balance. However, Jupiter is heating up your feelings and you may become more intense than usual. So use the energy of Saturn and Neptune to use common sense, maturity, and courage in the midst of confusion or disappointment. Avoid giving too much importance to fear. Be prudent, but don't hold back. Now, with the Sun's passage into Leo, you'll need to focus on your resources. Note that this year Mercury precedes the Sun in the sign, so creativity is essential for generating more resources. However, you must review your procedures, effects, and avoid presumption or the error of believing that you determine what sells or what others need. First, consider your partners. Since Pluto demands it, you'll do well to listen to them and follow their advice, always balancing your own creativity and self expression, also generosity. All of the above refers to Mercury's retrograde in Leo, which asks us to review what we want to offer others that is connected to our heart and truth. From there, we can be generous. Applause and recognition should no longer obsess us. Rather, personal applause is what we must achieve, because without it, nothing is enough. On July the 31st, with Mercury's inferior conjunction with the Sun, you can ask the universe exactly what, how, and when can you generate more resources. The full moon in Capricorn focuses you on your partner who will offer you maturity and common sense. No matter how excited you are, remember that you need character to stay focused, neither all towards the bad nor all towards the good. Remember that in this life everything passes, and what's recommended is to seek wisdom, to maintain sanity, and still enjoy the beauty of existence. The full moon on July the 10th is very helpful in terms of maturity and common sense. Don't let anger with your partners or spouses get the better of you. Embrace the power of distancing yourself from what overwhelms you in any way, whether good or bad. You can also be measured with your partner and don't let either parties lose their optimism or run riot without thinking about what's next. Nothing is set in stone for the moment, and although the major planets have already settled into harmonious dialogue, Uranus enters Gemini on July the 7th for 4 months, and Saturn and Neptune are in Aries for some months, and only Pluto has settled already in Aquarius. This will bring a technological emphasis to your professional sphere. You'll connect with new ideas that you may find exciting, but of course, the speed, novelty, and the demand to let go of material possessions will be hard work that you won't be able to avoid. Let's say this summer and early fall is a rehearsal for what will be established in the spring of next year. Be prepared for change. Society in general will value mobility, frugality, reason, and negotiation over attachment and the familiar. From now on, the theories and approaches of your partner or associate will be essential as support for you as you enter the new world that promises to be achieved this summer. The new moon completes on July the 24th, already in Leo, along with Mercury in retrograde motion. As I explained, focus on organizing, reviewing, and optimizing your resources. Don't spend out of presumption, but rather examine what you need to learn, undertake, or modernize to give more value to what you produce. Venus begins the month of July in a harmonious dialogue with Uranus, as they are in conjunction. As I explained in the introduction, it's almost the culmination of a 7-year period in which Uranus imposed its influence on love, relationships, and tastes. Now we can say that we find everything that is different, unconventional, and even eccentric to be beautiful, pleasurable, and acceptable. They are in perfect union on July the 4th. As we approach that day, we must open ourselves to surprise and the unexpected. This is the penultimate time they will meet in this sign, as next year they will meet again in the last degree of Taurus. In April 2026, we will reach the conclusion of this period that has brought us so many surprises and proposals in pleasures, tastes, and art. The following day, July the 5th, Venus enters Gemini and immediately reinforces the retrograde motion of Gemini in Leo, which will help us create new ideas through open dialogue with Pluto. That's why I urge you to listen to your partners and spouses. Mars, having just entered Virgo, is in harmony with your sign and it will help you clear out obsolete and useless ideas, although what you discover is personal and don't think many people are interested, since Mars is moving towards the South Node, which means few people are currently interested in analysis and service. But don't neglect it, it will be very useful. Mars will engage Venus in a complex and demanding dialogue because you will want to analyze and evaluate, and your friends are more interested in new things and will ignore your judgment and interpret it as criticism. Don't take it personally and decide, even if it's hard, to enjoy with them and leave the analysis to discuss it with neighbors and siblings, especially from July the 16th to the 22nd. I want to emphasize then that Saturn and Neptune in your career area will ask you for the courage to be creative and conquer new positions. The harmonious dialogue with Uranus in Gemini will make you recognize that even if everything is very fast, you have to jump on the bandwagon and adapt to this new speed as soon as possible. Your partner's knowledge, intelligence, and values will help you understand all technology will be promoted in favor of mobility, commerce, and the well being of the group. Emotional preferences and attachments will not be essential now. Sign up. Leo, congratulations to the Leos whose birthdays will be this month. From the first part of July until the 22nd, when the Sun enters your sign, Pay attention to what gives you security, even if you feel it produces attachment and excessive clinging to your home and family. Even if you want to create something new this month, you must address any pent up emotions. With the help of Jupiter, which has just entered Cancer, you will be able to understand what happened and have the strength to forgive and let go of resentment or bitterness. Memories will surface, prompting you to take things with kindness, even with good eyes towards the past, considering that what happened shaped who you are, what you believe is worth sharing. It is not just that intense people will appear at your workplace. You also need to be kind and understanding that colleagues need security and consistency. With the sun in Leo, you will feel inclined to share your inner self, of course, but this time Mercury, which precedes the Sun in your sign since the beginning of July, has been retrograde in your sign. So, for your birthday this month, you need to review your thinking and your communication. You need to become aware of the truth in your heart, that you have plenty of it and that you are there to share it. The light and clarity of the sun are your essence, but from now on you must balance them with the mental strength and intelligence of your partner and the intelligence you yourself must display in all your romantic or business relationships. It's not enough to be self expressive. You also have to be generous with your creativity and brilliance without thinking about the applause that will only come if you consider others, their tastes and choices, no matter how homogeneous and uninteresting they may be. The full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th focuses you on daily tasks and the need to take care of yourself with discipline and order. Set a goal to achieve in your daily work and your health so that you don't indulge yourself and lose all personal achievements, fueling others' need for security. Take advantage now to establish a proper routine because in 2026, after your birthday, you won't be able to avoid extreme expansion. The new moon in Leo on the 24th comes alongside Mercury and is enhanced by its retrograde motion. Your thought and communication processes must be reviewed throughout the year, from this birthday to the next, especially if your birthday is in this month. Think about what you consider to be the most valuable thing about yourself and what you can offer to others. You have to be confident enough not to dislike the opinions of your partner or associates who consider you intelligent. However, you are also very creative and brilliant. Don't let their theories discourage you. Instead, take their ideas into account to be more expressive and stronger in your generosity. Mercury's retrograde will bring to your awareness everything you experienced in the second half of 2024 and the first half of 2025, while Mars retrograded there, bringing you significant power struggles. Now review what you have learned, how you argued, what you were told you won, and what you lost. It's time to review what happened so you can integrate the lesson. You really have the year for that introspection. I know it's difficult because talking and expressing yourself helps you, but believe me, now is not the time. Keep quiet and think to yourself. Collect what you have to say and let your partner or associate speak. It's not because you lost, but because for now, learning to listen to others and especially to yourself is the most important thing. Also, on July the 31st, the inferior conjunction occurs, so you can ask your conscience or spirit about what's essential, what you have to give and give away with all generosity, without it extinguishing you or running out. As for Venus, it enters July in conjunction with Uranus, and with it begins the culmination of this 7 year period that changed all the traditional rules regarding love, relationships, pleasure, and taste. The culmination begins because July the 4th marks the penultimate conjunction of Venus in its ruling sign with Uranus. From November to April, Uranus will return to Taurus, where it will meet with Venus, now in the last degree of Taurus, and both will immediately advance to Gemini. Venus's entry into Gemini brings a friendly dialogue with Pluto, reinforcing Mercury, which, in addition to reviewing your thinking, will also make you question whether what you like is still valid or whether your tastes and predilections need to be refined. Groups of friends and associations will help you greatly during this period. Above all, during the week of July 16th to 22nd, it will be more important to be generous with yourself and your friends. The North Node in Pisces will express itself through them. Jupiter, in square to Saturn and Neptune, demands that you be brave and organized in your studies and legal matters. I must say that there's a dream of achieving something big, which you'll achieve if you are disciplined and don't let fear take over. Both the new professional situations brought by Uranus in Taurus and its entry into Gemini with new groups will help you. Also, the presence of Pluto in the area of partnerships and relationships will be very useful to you from now on. Don't fight over the microphone. This isn't the time. That's why I insist that you be patient and listen. This is the time to learn and integrate that will make you more powerful later on. Virgo, the Sun's passage through Cancer brings into your life this year, along with Jupiter, very generous and heartfelt friends and hopes that will make you feel better, allowing you to express yourself freely. This month and the relationships you establish in the next year will help you for 12 more, so it will be a gift to your life to count on your groups of friends. It's about transforming judgment and criticism into a gentler way and being less perfectionist. They will ask for your security and protection, and you will receive it as you give it. The Sun's entry into Leo will bring light to your internal processes and your fears. Shining isn't your thing, but the truth is that it's in the area of hidden and sacred desires. Your brilliance comes from being efficient in the institutions where you work, and now the processes will be reviewed and the methods and plans will change to adjust the changes that have taken place in recent months. You can't avoid them, but you can't fear them either. You will find your niche and you will adapt. It will take time. Don't despair. Anticipate that the second eclipse period of this year is coming for your birthday, and the solar eclipse is in your sign. Something has ended, and without resistance, the new enters. Only then will enjoy it immensely. The full moon on the 10th will bring you balance and common sense that you can apply with your children and loved ones, especially in your creativity, so that you can commit to your own creative processes. It's about committing to doing, not wanting until they are perfect. You have to show up at the workshop, the worksheet, the material, so that through repetition and persistence, you'll improve at creating and enjoying, not being disappointed, because perfection isn't possible. The new moon in Leo completes on the 24th along with Mercury. It brings the task of reviewing fears and anxieties, perhaps rectifying what you've said or heard with people you dislike or reject because of their very nature. Because of Mercury's retrograde, there's no choice but to face what you fear, if not with others, then within yourself. With your patience and analytical skills, write down why you feel afraid to shine, not as a justification, but in search for another perspective, one that will free you from old grudges and insecurities. By July the 31st, with the inferior conjunction of Mercury with the Sun, you will achieve a very peculiar clarity. Take advantage of it and don't get caught up in justifications. Just as you see the truth in others, you will be able to see the truth in yourself. Venus reaches Uranus in Taurus, and precisely on July the 4th, A period of concluding the new ideas and pleasures you discovered over the past 7 years begins, which in theory should have opened your mind to new theories and points of view. Perhaps you embarked on a study that will later help you in your professional and development. The essential thing is not the content, but that your way of thinking and frame of reference are open to receiving new things. On July the 5th, Venus advances into Gemini, immediately establishing a smooth dialogue with Pluto. You will be demanding at work as you now need to learn to work as a team to achieve the goals set for your organization. Be patient and learn to cooperate with everyone. This isn't a time for personal brilliance. It's your analytical skills that will shine. Mars in Virgo, along with the South Node in your sign, has arrived to move forward with what's pending within you. Not the perfectionism and criticism we mentioned are unnecessary, but rather taking care of yourself physically, eating healthily, and creating cleaning and organizing routines that will relieve you more than you think. However, it will create a difficult dialogue with Venus in Gemini from July the 16th to the 22nd. Even if you feel comfortable with light and superficial conversation, you have to balance it with activities focused on yourself and your growth. You can't stop talking to others, but you can't get lost in their gossip either. It's precisely Jupiter in square with Saturn and Neptune that opens the doors to a new situation that you'll master in due time, not immediately. So don't criticize or judge yourself, much less feel bad. Change is appropriate and there's no turning back. This process, driven by Saturn and Neptune in harmonious dialogue with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, leads you to learn something new and to move from one place to another. It acts by promoting all technology in favor of mobility, commerce, and the well being of the group. For now, neither emotional preference nor attachments are helpful. Remember that you have friends to talk to and they are there to support you because they are true. But don't get lost in drama or victimization. Embark on new things with gusto. Libra. The Sun's entry into Cancer, accompanied by Jupiter, vitalizes and empowers the area of social and professional success. Don't argue with your partner or associates who may have very good ideas and plans but lack precision. Allow growth to come and take hold, even if it's not clear exactly where it will take you right now. Agree with your partner to be brave and not let it stop what is rightfully yours. The Sun's advance into Leo, preceded by Mercury, will also bring you new groups of friends and associations with whom you will review ideas and forms of self expression. It may be a month of silence and observation, but it will be very useful later on for you to choose which forms are most useful for expressing and creating what you want. Mercury's retrograde in Leo is what will lead you all month to review what you express and share in groups, and with your hopes and what you want or need to shine and express yourself in them. Perhaps it's time, as I said, to see what others are doing so you can refine your methods of self expression. On the 31st, with Mercury's inferior conjunction with the Sun, you can ask the universe for clarity. Perhaps you will have a very important conversation that will give you understanding and more strength to your expression and creativity. With the full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th, you will see the results of 10 years of transformations in the area of your foundations and home. The guidance and strength of your ancestors will now be seen in all their splendor and will set a tone of wisdom and maturity for the expansion and good fortune that appears in the professional and social spheres with which you seek to achieve financial independence. With the new moon in Leo on the 24th, which completes accompanied by Mercury, You should focus on your work with groups, students, and associations. I insist that the most important thing is to review your hopes so that you have absolute clarity about what you truly need to shine and express yourself in those environments. The harmonious dialogue of Venus conjunct Uranus culminates a period of transformation in the values you share with others. They have changed their expression. Now they are heterodox, innovative, and even eccentric. You were greatly affected because this movement was in the area of a sign ruled by Venus. You find that refinement has no place to express itself for the moment, but it also made you look at other possibilities for relationships and pleasures that were previously unthinkable. A year begins this month in which you'll finally see which values have become established and which were merely a fad of the period. However, let go of everything that prevents you from enjoying new adventures and experiences. With Venus advances into Gemini in a trine with Pluto, reinforces the review of group values. A grand trine is formed for you involving your Libra energy. This is where you'll understand the world in a completely different way and you'll feel free and confident. The challenge is to not allow Mars in Virgo along with the South Node to fill you with fear because you think you'll no longer be able to serve others in the institutions where you work, which squares Venus from July the 16th to the 22nd. Don't let the opinions and criticisms and judgments of others prevent you from enjoying and creating the new things that come to you. In reality, there are judgments you make about yourself. Face them, but don't give them power. Remember that not everything we think is true. As I mentioned at the beginning, the presence of Jupiter in square with Saturn and Neptune leads you to a new professional achievement. If you create with new ideas and techniques, if you're planning on joining a new project, take advantage of Uranus' entry into Gemini between now and November. For now, with Pluto in Aquarius, we've been waiting for this. Air energy is communication and mobility, and it will do you good. It's time to express yourself and get moving. Scorpio. The sun's stay in Cancer, the summer, is very beneficial for you because feelings and emotions are illuminated again, an energy that allows your essence to flow and expand your horizons and higher knowledge. This time, Jupiter also enters the sign of Cancer, bringing you opportunities for trips abroad with family, higher education, and legal agreements. All of this is provided that you overcome the first 10 days of a work situation that demands new agreements because there is movement without a clear direction. The sun's advance into Leo on the 22nd is no longer so simple because the work area demands that you go out, show yourself, and expose, which is not so natural for your inner self. In addition, you must finally overcome the confrontation with Pluto, which forces you to review your opinions, transforming your foundations and beliefs. With the full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th, it invites you to be sensible and mature in communicating with siblings and neighbors. In reality, it's a challenge because you feel more trust and togetherness with distant people or strangers than with those close to you, such as siblings or neighbors. You demand maturity from the latter, and a distant relationship with the near ones, maybe appear as if it were business relationships with the near ones, especially because the lunation is ruled by Saturn, now joined by Neptune, proposing actions that require faith to be carried out, but because they suddenly bring confusion and doubt. On the 24th, the new moon in Leo completes, accompanied by Mercury, which brings new beginnings in the professional and social spheres, stemming from a profound review imposed by Mercury's retrograde motion in Leo. The interesting thing is that although Leo is an extroverted sign and its energy compels you to step outside yourself, both the new moon and the retrograde motion compel introspection and the sowing of something that will develop later, even over a period of 36 months. Give yourself time to create new goals, listen to and test proposals as well as methods that inspire the people you work with. You have patience and perseverance, and even if it's urgent, nothing will be definitive for now. On the 31st, with the inferior conjunction of Mercury with the Sun, you can ask the universe for clarity on the creative goals that need to be implemented in your professional and social spheres. Just as July begins, Venus closes the conjunction with Uranus, beginning the final year of this rapprochement that has profoundly affected your relationship and partnerships. Different people appeared who opened your consciousness to new possibilities. Your tastes changed and you explored the new and the unorthodox, prepared for the final year in which this process is still active. On the 5th, Venus enters Gemini in harmony with Pluto, reinforcing the processes established by Mercury in Leo. Therefore, for professional and social reasons, you are forced to change your values, especially because your partners or spouses will discover new values that are not entirely easy for you to assimilate, mainly because they are theoretical or mental and lack emotional depth. Mars in Virgo, together with the South Node, represents an exercise in analyzing all the knowledge you acquire. The goal is to achieve independence. You should avoid being affected by your friends' criticism or judgments of your efforts to be self sufficient. Defend your learning, but be analytical as well. From July the 16th to the 22nd, Mars forms a square with Venus, as judgments, analysis, and logical reasoning find little interest in others because they are literally caught up in superficial, friendly, and even light conversations. Valuing this last point is essential for you. It is the beginning of the formation of new values where immediacy and generality will prevail. The extraordinary configuration of Saturn and Neptune in harmonious dialogue with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius will promote all technology in favor of mobility, commerce, and the well being of the family group. New values will be created that will transform your family and work situation. It will not be concerned with the emotional preferences or attachments that most people may have. We are in the testing period that will last until October and November, after which we will return to what is known until April 2026, when the configuration will definitely establish for several years. Let's go. Sagittarius, with the sun's passage into Cancer and the beginning of summer, it's opportune to close cycles and, in your case, recognize the transformative power of emotions. You are not a person who holds on to resentment and you reject drama. You prefer to isolate yourself rather than confront them. But due to Jupiter's entry into Cancer for a year from now, the transformation and closure of cycles will make you grow exponentially. So don't run away and face what needs to be closed. Leaving a situation always implies growing in the next stage, whether mentally, emotionally, professionally, or relationally. It also means an increase in the resources you share with your partner. With the full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th, you'll feel the need to complete business matters and be very serious about the resources you produce. You must establish the goal you aspire to, which depends on your creativity. Be disciplined to practice, rehearse, and produce. Perhaps your partner or associate will help you sell and move your resources, but you have to be consistent. Due to the Sun's advance into Leo, you'll feel much more active starting on the 22nd, but already then, in fact, Mercury will station itself in the sign on the 17th, promoting a review of your philosophical ideas, your professional study goals, and legal matters. It's time to listen to others and plan how you'll restart a creative project in this area, which you could develop for 36 months due to the new moon on the 24th, which imposes this period of transformation, opening up space for change in ways of thinking. After that time, your mentally will have changed thanks to the support of Saturn and Neptune in the area of creativity. On the 31st, the inferior conjunction of Mercury with the Sun, you can ask the universe for clarity regarding the area of that higher education project you are planning to undertake. Due to the conjunction of Venus with Uranus in Taurus, which ends on July the 4th, the last year of originality, surprise, and the unexpected begins in your work, above all because of the tastes, procedures, and preferences that have been changing for almost 7 years. With Venus advancing into Gemini in a trine to Pluto, it reinforces the creative process of Mercury's retrograde motion we mentioned, but also opens the possibility of new opportunities for relationships and partnerships which may have ties with siblings, cousins, and neighbors. As for Mars in Virgo, along with the South Node, it demands that you be logical and helpful, but you will find little interest in sharing this professionally, as it will actually generate little interest. This is complicated by the square with Venus from July the 16th to the 22nd, which will emphasize light, joyful, and fun social relationships. The difficult dialogue between Jupiter and Saturn, Neptune, imposes a crisis that must be resolved by closing processes that limit your creative capacity. Even if you don't know exactly what to do, persist in the workshop, in your practice, or in being enthusiastically present with your children and loved ones. All of these will nourish your spirit and you will feel very joyful. Furthermore, the harmonious dialogue of Saturn and Neptune with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius brings about new relationships that are fueled by your creative processes, promoting all technology in favor of mobility, commerce, and the well being of the group. All of these will fill you with enthusiasm and creative capacity. Capricorn. The Sun's passage through Cancer is not an easy period for you, but each year it implies that you make emotional contact with your partner and associates, as you always choose very sensitive people who are difficult for you to relate to because they are sentimental and challenge your structured and organized logic. However, you are intrigued by the emotional richness that only that energy can extract from you. From now on, and for a year, emotional richness will grow exponentially due to the presence of Jupiter in Cancer. In general, it is about growing in emotional expression. In the lack of coherence, it is about sharing what is necessary so that everyone feels safe and protected. However, you need to overcome the harsh dialogue provoked by Saturn and Neptune, which incites you to act without really knowing why and where. With the full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th, you'll have the drive and strength to balance your emotionality with your natural authority. What you need to understand is that you must be fair not only with others, but with yourself so that you receive the care and support you need. Avoid becoming so serious that you provoke a confrontation and no one receive anything. The Sun's advance into Leo is always a time to review what you share with your partners and spouses. It is normally a clear and generous process, but this year, due to the extended presence of Mercury in its retrograde motion and the Leo new moon, which completes on the 24th, it requires a thorough review of your shared assets, closing some, changing others, and carefully considering new ones before committing to anything more. As everyone knows, starting something now means assuming it will evolve on its own and with results different from those expected. Taking advantage of this period, you can conduct an in-depth research to act in August when the energy is more direct and above all, you feel more prepared and willing. On the 31st, with the inferior conjunction of Mercury with the Sun, you can ask the universe for clarity to begin the negotiations you want. But you really should wait until August the 12th to act. Remember that July is a time of review and sowing. Meanwhile, the relationships affected by the Venus conjunction with Uranus, which is perfected on July the 4th, have brought a period of change in tastes, pleasures, and loves. None of them are as traditional as you would like, but since they were and are in a similar sign, you will be able to assimilate those proposals for another year, which, however outlandish they may seem, imply a broader range of your aesthetic and relational experience. On the 5th, with Venus entering Gemini in a trine with Pluto, reinforcing Mercury, the connections between your business, work, and what you share with your partners and spouses are encouraged. New opportunities will be proposed to you, which won't end this month. So listen and reflect as is your custom. There's no rush to resolve them now. It's more important that you organize what you already have to truly understand your financial situation. On the other hand, the presence of Mars in Virgo, along with the South Node, brings criticism from professors, legal advisors, or traveling companions who try to impose their opinions, but the presence of the South Node weakens your own interest in what they say or propose. All this is complicated by the square with Venus from July the 16th to the 22nd, as we will all be in the mood to listen to live conversations, promises of easy and uncomplicated enrichment, which really won't happen, at least not as they are presenting it to us. Remember that with Jupiter in square to Saturn and Neptune, a conflict arises between your partner and the new needs at home. It feels like everything is changing, but it's not clear for now what needs to be renewed to facilitate the actions that are needed, but it's unknown if they will persist. Be patient and at least wait a little longer to gain clarity. Saturn and Neptune in harmonious dialogue with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius move your work and resources so you can make changes that facilitate family activities, but it's not clear what's truly necessary and what's superfluous. It's a matter of mobility and efficiency. Aquarius. The beginning of summer with the sun in Cancer always brings work-related issues that affect the safety and well-being of your employees, as well as digestive processes for you that need to be taken care of. There's always an underlying emotional issue to resolve, which isn't as comfortable for you because you prefer reasoning, intelligence, and practicality to face needs, so demands don't naturally meet with methods. I'll explain this in detail because from now on and for a year, Jupiter will amplify the challenges in this area and bring you different people who will guide this process for you. As I said before, growing with Jupiter is inevitable. So if you develop your emotional intelligence, it will be more important than not doing so and letting problems grow, especially because the first week of the month will bring a difficult dialogue with Saturn and Neptune, which makes us feel the need to move, but unfortunately, we don't know how or where. You might perceive that the location of the company or office needs to move because there's expansion, but it's not clear when much less where. With the full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th, you could get a glimpse of what's really necessary for the institution where you work. What you want is for it to be more professional, but as I mentioned, you'll have to wait to know precisely how and where, unless you can take the leap of faith and jump into the void, knowing that everything will turn out well. You'll have to take that leap. As the sun moves into Leo, situations with your partner arise each year that aren't entirely easy to handle, especially because the struggle for power becomes more important. And this year, even more so, because Pluto empowers you and makes you feel that you are right. Think about whether the smart thing to do is really win that battle or maintain a relationship. I mention this because this month Mercury precedes the Sun in Leo and will extend its presence due to the retrograde motion. The new moon in Leo will also occur on the 24th. Everything is an effort to review not only your partner's needs, but also yourself as a couple, how you can satisfy your need for billions while also enjoying your partners. There's much to listen to, understand, and rethink to have another chance at understanding. On the 31st, with Mercury's inferior conjunction to the Sun, don't miss the opportunity to take time to reflect and ask the universe for clarity, but stay calm until at least August the 12th so that any misunderstandings between you and your partner or with your associates can be cleared up. Furthermore, with Venus's conjunct Uranus, the final year of reviewing your tastes and values at home will just begin. It may have become very modern, but eclectic and even unorthodox. The transformation isn't over yet. Keep measuring and budgeting for what emerges, even if it's only to incorporate elements that inspire and aren't absolutely necessary. With Venus entering Gemini in a trine to Pluto, reinforcing the Mercury processes of review, I explained you'll feel comfortable and creative, ready to exchange ideas with your children and loved ones. Reality, the process there is less complicated as long as you don't jump in with judgments, criticisms, or theoretical demands. Due to the presence of Mars in Virgo, along with the South Node in a difficult dialogue with Venus from July the 16th to the 22nd, it encourages easy, smooth, and light communication, reinforcing the explanation about the difficult dialogue between Jupiter in square to Saturn and Neptune. Your siblings, cousins, and neighbors know that it needs to move forward, but they are unclear about the procedure. You yourself, no matter how intelligent you are also unclear about the effects of this process. We all have to wait for the crisis to pass and for us to have more tools and conditions in place to move forward. However, Saturn and Neptune in harmonious dialogue with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius will revolutionize your creative thinking. Consider that technology can help and strengthen your resources. Pisces, the sun's advance into Cancer fills you with vitality, illuminating your creativity and attachment to your children and loved ones. You find ways to create greater security and well being for the children of the flesh as well as those of the spirit. Starting this month and continuing for a year, Jupiter in Cancer fosters more emotional creativity, which can translate into creative growth and closeness with your children and loved ones. There are really only two temporary conditions that must be met. The first one is that you must overcome the harsh and difficult dialogue with Saturn and Neptune, which is felt as a desire to organize and achieve more resources, but it is not clear how, especially while at work there is a review of procedures, relationships, and situations that need to be rethought and reorganized. Waiting is advisable. The other condition is the culmination of the full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th, signaling that the relationships that have supported you for a long time and whose goal is to make you solid and stable have concluded. This process has indeed finished, and you must transmit this stability and strength of character to your children and loved ones. Not aggression nor violence, but rather calm and serenity, enabling you to wait without losing your sanity. It offers the opportunity to give time to your spirit, whether through meditation or prayer, to listen to the inner voice that advises you how and where to move. On the other hand, the sun's advance into Leo each year forces you to turn to your work, to be more generous, entrepreneurial, and expressive. But this year it is also amplified by two situations. The first is Mercury's retrograde motion, which extends the period of reflection on what should be applied at work, the situations that need to be clarified, and the procedures that are no longer useful and need to be renewed. This will take until August the 12th. The other pertinent situation is the new moon, also in the sign of Leo on the 24th, which emphasizes a sowing moment regarding work processes that must be carefully thought out before being displayed or even spoken about. It's time to listen, reason, question, investigate, clean, organize, and rehearse before proposing a definitive method. On the 31st, with the inferior conjunction of Mercury with the Sun, there is a window to ask the universe for clarity. Only on that day afterwards should you follow up on what you've said before proposing anything next. This is more advisable until August the 12th. With the formation of the conjunction of Venus with Uranus, the final period of review of your communication begins. Quirky neighbors may have arrived, or your siblings may have acquired new tastes, pleasures, and ideas that renewed yours and will continue to do so. There's still time to try something different, especially on July the 4th. On the 5th, Venus advances into Gemini in harmony with Pluto, reinforcing Mercury's and its process of revising self expression and creativity. But Venus brings a taste for the soft, light, and easy, especially in your house. With Mars in Virgo along with the South Node, you could receive judgments, criticisms, or demands from your partner that won't be heard, not because they are unfounded, but because the South Node weakens interest in these processes and you simply aren't interested or of interest to anyone. The situation will become more difficult from July the 16th to the 22nd due to the difficult dialogue with Venus, which, as I explained, wants a light dialogue and your partner's criticism will be relentless. Neither option suits you. If it isn't gentle, loving, and sweet, you won't tolerate what is said to you. Just remember that taking things lightly sometimes makes coexistence easier, and taking logic and common sense into account also makes things easier. The challenge here is for you to adjust to what is necessary, not take everything personally. This is exactly the inconsistent side of Jupiter in Cancer in a difficult dialogue with Saturn and Neptune. Jupiter will increase resentment, and Saturn and Neptune will increase impatience and confusions. So, if things get difficult and confusing, no matter how many people take sides, stay calm and centered. You should also know that Saturn and Neptune, in harmonious dialogue with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, foster your creativity. You know you have to create something different and not fear technology. On the contrary, use it to make mobility and commerce your livelihood. Aries, the arrival of summer, thanks to the sun in Cancer, is always a challenge for you because everyone at home becomes emotional, intense, and sensitive, and this year is no exception. Quite the opposite. Due to the presence of Jupiter in Cancer, emotional drama will exponentially increase, and you'll do well to develop your emotional intelligence to provide your family with security, support, and harmony. Furthermore, the full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th asks you to balance your professional and work life with common sense and maturity. You can't pamper others and be cold with yourself. It's just the opposite. Pamper those close to you and be serious and professional with those far away. With the sun's advance into Leo, your creative area is illuminated, and there's a lot to do there this month as Mercury is retrograde in Leo. First, with children and love, there's a lot to listen to and clarify. Drop the microphone and don't allow yourself to be lectured or preached to by them. Remain silent and understand what they are asking of you. If necessary, apologize and step back to achieve a better relationship. If it's about creativity, you also need to review methods, theories, and beliefs that limit it, and you need to clean up and correct what's being proposed to you. You can't continue with the same process. You need to clean up, research, and aim to renew self expression by removing all those assumptions about what you deserve. Remember that the most important thing about Leo is generosity. So ask yourself what you are willing to share creatively, and from there you'll gain recognition and applause later. Additionally, the Leo new moon on the 24th indicates a process of initiating, researching, and revising something new, but it's in its seed stage. Don't waste time explaining anything now. Just be the one to understand it yourself. The process will continue over a long period of transformation, lasting 36 months. On the 31st, with inferior conjunction of Mercury to the Sun, you can ask the universe for clarity and inspiration so you can see or intuit what's next. As for the confluence of Venus and Uranus on the 4th, the final year begins where your resources have been renewed and rethought. The effort isn't over, and let your friends inspire you with their ideas. You need them to keep going, but for now it's time to sit down and rethink what's next. With, with Venus entering Gemini in a trine to Pluto, reinforcing the review process I've explained, you may crave light and friendly conversation. They don't have to be that way because they bring powerful and intelligent ideas that you can put into practice. On the other hand, Mars in Virgo, along with the South Node, brings a tone of judgment, criticism, and anger because it wants everything to be logical and analyzed. Since this is your ruling planet, it won't help you because it makes you angry, impatient, confused, and insecure. But if you get active and give yourself time for analysis and common sense, you'll realize that jumping into the void for now isn't the most practical option. The smart thing to do is to think carefully about what you are going to do from August the 12th onward. If it means putting in a lot of effort on your part because it establishes a difficult dialogue with Venus from July the 16th to the 22nd, not everything is serious, nor is everything gossip. Do your part and calm down. The presence of Saturn and Neptune in your sign forces you to act with order, discipline, and faith, which is naturally an effort for you. Coherence is a matter of connecting with the spiritual warrior within you. Inconsistency, it's about idealizing and justifying a violent and combative attitude. Furthermore, the harmonious dialogue with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius will bring you a number of people and ideas that you will greatly enjoy, promoting all technology in favor of mobility, commerce, and the well being of the group. Contact yourself. Taurus, the sun's passage through Cancer illuminates relationships with siblings, cousins, and neighbors. It also provokes loving thoughts and feelings with those so close to you. Furthermore, Jupiter's entry into Cancer for a year from now will amplify the exchange of love and cuddles, but the inconsistency can amplify the intensity and resentment typical of Cancer. First of all, you must overcome the period of difficult dialogue with Saturn and Neptune, which show you the fear of moving forward and taking on new things. Of course, by nature, you may decide to stay the way you are, but the presence of Uranus in your sign has already taught you that moving forward is liberating and even fun. Furthermore, Pluto in Aquarius will place you in professional and social situations that will force you to change your perspective. In other words, life will require you to be open and flexible, a real challenge for your nature. The full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th will assist you by revealing ideas, philosophies, and knowledge that can help you be sensible and balanced, complementing such intensity. Now, with the sun's passage into Leo, the situation at home is illuminated every year, allowing you to express yourself freely and with gusto. However, Mercury in Leo now precedes it, and its retrograde motion will occur, requiring you to address pending communication issues. It's time to listen and understand what others have to say. It's not possible to be right all the time, and even less so now. Don't insist on your point of view, remain silent, and strive to understand others. Furthermore, the new moon in Leo on the 24th shows a topic that isn't open now but will germinate and grow over the next 36 months. So plan a creative process from the ground up so that you can later share it with family or at home. You don't have to speak about it right now. Just feel it and give yourself all the time to develop it, present it, and close it. Specifically on the 31st, with the inferior conjunction of Mercury to the Sun, you can ask the universe for clarity about what you need to express later. With the annual meeting of Venus with Uranus, you will once again find the need for exchange and personal improvement, which after 6 years of Uranus presence in your sign should have made you accustomed to style updates. There's still a year left in that process, even though there's a break this summer. Keep experimenting, especially because getting used to change is something that will give you a significant advantage in the years to come. With Venus moving into Gemini, you should focus on your resources because it begins a process of renewing your resources, where technology will be much more important than it is now, at least from now until November, when Uranus returns to Taurus to complete the image changes, and then in April 2026, new things will come regarding your values and resources. This movement of Venus into Gemini for now reinforces the process we discussed about reviewing communication and creativity in your home, just as it's important to clarify matters with those you live with. It's also essential to have clarity about the businesses you plan to undertake. Give yourself time this month and until April the 12th to think, review, and investigate how you will generate resources from now on. This movement of Venus brings a difficult dialogue with Mars, which has been in Virgo since the beginning of the month, not very inclined to superficial or light dialogue. So your children and loved ones may criticize you and become very demanding of their creativity. If it's about your own creative processes, put aside the criticism and start playing just for the fun of it. Even if you're reluctant due to the presence of the South Node, it's not about ceasing to be creative, but rather freeing yourself from perfectionism and analysis so you can start enjoying what you create. This is essential for you. Regarding the difficult dialogue between Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune, it involves the fear you feel about moving and launching yourself into new adventures. I have to be frank with you, and there's no other option but to face the fear because you'll have to move anyways if you want to generate new resources, as I explained earlier. On the other hand, Saturn and Neptune form a harmonious dialogue with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, promoting all technology in favor of mobility, commerce, and the well being of the group in the professional and social spheres. The long term period ahead is about growing both financially and professionally, and you can't just sit at home. Get moving. Gemini. The sun's advance into Cancer brings you very significant growth financially. Of course, like the tides, sometimes high and other times low. Don't despair and pay attention so you recognize the cycle and can save to conserve resources, at least stabilize them with savings. However, there are two astrological situations you must overcome now. Jupiter's permanence in Cancer for a year from now, which expands everything it touches. And second is the full moon on July the 10th in Capricorn, which will give your partner and associates a voice so you can be sensible with the resources you share and less emotional. But trust your sales skills and convince your clients that you have a good product or service to offer. With the sun's advance into Leo, the area of communication is illuminated, which normally isn't a problem because you shine perfectly when you want to express yourself. But this year, Mercury arrived late in the day and will remain there all month and well into August, as it includes its retrograde period. So you have to listen to your siblings, cousins, and neighbors. There's a lot to clarify. However, the essential thing is that you review your method of expression at least this month. Keep silent and become your own witness. How do you speak? Do you listen? Do you clarify to yourself and to others? The new moon in Leo on the 24th emphasizes the process because the need for expression arises and you must think carefully before sharing it. First, go through all these days up until August the 12th to see what you need to cleanse, renew, review, and research. Then prepare an action plan, but please don't say anything until it's firmly in place and preferably after August the 12th. On the 31st, with the inferior conjunction of Mercury with the Sun, you can ask the universe for inspiration and clarity regarding how to improve your communication. In respect to relationships, Venus reunites with Uranus, bringing movement and liberation from what you fear most, which is a stable and permanent connection. There's still a year of preparation ahead for that fear of remaining stagnant, when in reality a process of extreme mobilization is coming next. When Venus enters Gemini, it trines Pluto, reinforcing the communication situation I mentioned that needs to be reviewed. Mars in Virgo, along with the South Node, gives your family space to express criticism and judgment. But don't get angry, just focus on the fact that with common sense you can protect everything you invest. Furthermore, you'll engage in a difficult dialogue with Venus from July the 16th to the 22nd, which means that most people will prefer to talk generally about superficialities and won't be interested in analysis. Just take advantage of what they say, don't argue, remain silent no matter how difficult it may seem, and get to work with what works for you. As for Jupiter in square with Saturn and Neptune, you have to be very careful with what you earn, although by natural tendency you'll want to spend it on your friends and groups or associations, but you won't please them because they don't know what they want for now. Don't squander, I insist. Nevertheless, the reunion of Saturn and Neptune in harmonious dialogue with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius promotes technology in favor of mobility, commerce, and the well-being of the group. It will be completely beneficial for you. Don't waste time or get too agitated. Just find your rhythm and enjoy your agility and mobility. It will be very beneficial.